Hello, everyone. How are we doing tonight? I am doing great, Justin. Thank you. Hopefully, everyone had a good trading day. Our first high probability trading day of the week. Definitely had a lot of movement. So glad to see you all in numbers. Usually, when people do bad, we see small numbers in the PA reviews, right? Who wants to look at a chart after they've just blown their account on that same chart and someone tell them how exactly you could have known what to trade, when to trade, and more specifically, how you could have made money, right? No one likes to do that. But we are going to look at the day. We had a beautiful 500 or so, 400 or so downside move on NASDAQ. So definitely a day filled with opportunity. But before we dive into it, I was being a little bit cheeky yesterday and hinting at something. And that little something is our first official indicator. Technically, my first official indicator. So finally, I will be releasing some custom indicators to the public, some little simple indicators. And the first one that I am unveiling tonight and will be available after this call is key times and opening prices, as you can see by myself. Now, this indicator is extremely simple, as I have said, but it will plot your custom times and, more importantly, the key times along with their opening prices to utilize them during the day. For example, daily open and midnight open. But the main and the key feature in this indicator is the historical aspect of it. If I just wait along the settings, which I will go over, and plot the historical, you'll see that I can now scroll out and see all of these levels on my chart so that when I'm backtesting, I do not need to spend a bunch of time plotting them out. And we all know, right? Whenever you're backtesting, it takes a while. It's long. But now you can take beautiful pictures, see how price interacted if you want to study things. Like, for example, midnight opening price, right? I have this in front of me, a beautiful rejection of midnight opening price. They can now all be available with an indicator. Glad you appreciate it, AR. I'm going to do a quick rundown of the settings, but everything is pretty straightforward and explained in the indicator's description, which, as I said, will be available to all of you guys right after this video. You have the main, which I could say the default levels, which, as you can see here, you have daily open, midnight open, settlement time, which is 3 p.m. That is logic brought to us by Alex Stats from the lab. Love that guy, appreciate him very much. And he shared some logic about settlement price. You'll have to head to his Twitter, which will be linked in the Twitter post I'll make later. I'll show you guys that then. 7:30 a.m. open, 8:30 a.m. open, 9:30, 10, and 14, so 2 p.m. You have all of these opening prices, which you can set to either opening price to only plot the opening price, vertical line to only plot a vertical separator. So, for example, if I decide to put the daily open in the vertical mode, you'll see that the daily open no longer plots, but I have vertical separators to separate my days. But what if I don't want the daily open? Every single default time, can be plotted off and not shown on your chart. And you can also choose to have both. So for example, I want midnight open separators. Now I'm having a little visual issues. If I zoom out and zoom back in, you'll see that it plots perfectly. Are now perfect to plot the vertical separators to separate my days specifically. Now you also have the opportunity for custom times. For anyone that is using specific logic or wants custom times plotted on their chart, you can set a custom hour and minute, set whichever you want, so a vertical line to showcase a session, opening price, or both, along with the color, what type of line you want to see, and the width, which is the same visual options for the settings above. You can also change the text if you want text or not. Maybe your colors are enough for you and you do not want text cluttering your screen. And as well, you have your vertical lines that you can change from anything you want to have different visual aspects. Now, as I said, this indicator will be open to everybody, and I will be releasing it right after this call, so we'll be able to utilize it. But if you see, and I just actually plot their historical, once we go down in our time frames, we'll be able to analyze price with these times. Now, enough about that new indicator I just released, and let's look at price. What happened today? Where were our opportunities? Well, as you guys know, that always starts on a higher time frame chart. We always go through top down. And what happened today? Well, we had SMT. Hello, Alex. You just missed the showcase of the indicator, but we'll be talking about it more a little later. But glad to have you with us. So early on in the week on ES, right, which I seems to be on Monday, we formed SMT at the highs, right? So already then we could have anticipated that NQ could catch up, but we could have started a retracement lower. This is all stuff we talked about yesterday. And where were our lower objectives? Well, we were looking at close liquidity. And as you can see now, we have invalidated these levels purely after, as I said, right, what was it, 480 handle day or something like this on NASDAQ. So we have expanded quite deep into our range for the moment. And that leads me to believe that tomorrow will be continuing to that side. But our bias was bearish. We swept previous day's high, and as we will look in the lower time frames, we had a clear low of day candidate. No need to go to the 4-hour because the daily was clean. And if we dive to the 15-minute, and I will hide this indicator for now because we won't need it for the next seconds. What do we see today, right? If we plot our sessions, well, coming into New York, we had one time aspect, one time variable, which was 9:45 news, right? We had manufacturing PMI, if I'm not mistaken, this morning. But the important point is we had news. And what happened at that news? Well, we formed furthermore SMT in our lower time frames, right? We had previous SMT at this level, but in our lower time frames, we formed SMT, which we'll dive in a sec here once we go down to our 1 minute. If I actually use the indicator, and just let me just turn everything off and plot the midnight opening price. And I'll also have here 9:30 and 10 a.m. Let's go look at this specifically. Put it into historical mode so it doesn't delete them. 9:45 is our start. What are we looking for when we have news? We're looking for manipulation. Okay, what do you have? Judah swing higher or Judah swing lower? How can you know, right? And there is, at this current time, SMT on both sides, with ES not having taken out this level, and NASDAQ, if I can just find the right swing, having taken out this level. So there is SMT on the lows, but there is also, if I can find the right swing, there is also SMT on the highs. And yes, it is in the same direction, showcasing that NASDAQ is weaker and ES is stronger. But what do I always say when there are SMTs on both sides of the range? I say this is consolidation. I'm not interested in getting engaged with price during consolidation. So what do you wait for if you think that right now we are consolidating? Very simple. You wait for a raid on that consolidation. Now this can be seen as a raid and you could have taken along, but as I said, daily bias bearish, I am going to look for shorts. So after manipulating higher, taking out liquidity, of course, but most importantly, what did we do? SMT, right? So you had a clear raid with an energetic price move is the way I describe it. And you also formed SMT at those highs. That was your go signal. And if we look at time, where are we? 9:50 to 10:10 macro. You're looking at the 10 a.m. open starting soon, as you can see right here. And what did we do specifically? Well, we expanded lower. But as you guys know, the rise model consists of breakers. So you would be looking at this candle and looking for a close at least below this low to even consider it a breaker. And that did not happen. You might have seen Rusty in chat this morning, but as he said, this was the trade that he would have liked to trade today. And most importantly, you would have had to anticipate the breaker. Now, are these the easy setups? Not at all, right? If you're looking at the rise model specifically, whenever you have to anticipate breakers, that gets confusing because you're like, okay, well, when am I allowed to basically anticipate a breaker and when am I not? Well, I'll tell you guys personally, I did not trade this. I decided not to because it did not close below this line. So I don't need price to trade below the swing low and technically form the breaker, but I at least need to see a close between the future breaker candle to consider it a breaker. And as you can see, that only happened here. You could have taken a continuation off of that beautiful immediate rebalance, but that is not my style. I want something clear. Whenever I'm backtesting, what do? I am pessimistic. I don't want to see the picture perfect setup that, oh, I would have thought that at that time, and so I would have taken that trade. No, it's clear, it's in your face. Here, at that point, there was no breaker. You had to anticipate it, but we're still going to look at it entering off of this fair value gap, which of course it inversed, but your 3PD array stop loss rule allows for that. And if we look, we have fair value gap right here and inverse fair value gap at this level. And now I'm seeing the volume imbalance with the fair value gap above. So your stop would have been pretty wide here. A clear invalidation at this point would have been the level from the first news. So we had also unemployment claims at 8:30. So data lows right here. But as you can see, data lows does not offer enough R for me to even consider a take profit at this point with a stop this wide. So where am I going to go? Well, mechanical approach. How do we find our take profits? 5-minute chart, we go to our range. Oh, that is our range to 8:30, right? And as we said, this doesn't allow for enough R. So where are we going to look? Well, what's my current daily range? From this swing point to this swing point. So currently my objective is the current daily low. I want us to expand through it. And of course, afterwards you have previous day low. And as we framed our fair value gap below as clear objectives. If I am within this price range, this 8:30 is my daily low. So what I'm trying to showcase is, even though this level technically does not give you enough R, I am trading a mechanical approach. I don't get to choose when I want to take profit and when I don't, which means that I am taking money out at this specific level. So yes, it is 0.8. So for example, if I had a 5 micro contract position, I'm taking out 1. I don't want to take out a lot of money at this point, but I do want to take out money, break even my trade, since if I am wrong about us being bearish, it is going to sweep this and then reverse to go to higher prices. Because of that, I am specifically taking profits there. But if we look at other clear objectives, you'll find that we have relative equal lows right here. So if I just plot them out just like this, we also have relative equal lows once we get lower at this point. And our final objective, current low of day, which was also induced as relative equal lows. We had very clear objectives up to this point, and then you would have left a runner on to continue to your objective. And if we look just at the first relative equal lows, you'll find 1.5 R, quite a small trade. But if you look to your current daily low, you'll find 2.84 R. And if we see all the way, yes, and London sell side, which if I'm not mistaken is this specific swing point in correlation with midnight open. But the truth is, if I have relative equal lows right there that are in close proximity, so if we look here, that's 10 handles on NASDAQ, I was never going to target midnight open. And if we see here, you had a beautiful touch and then a rejection, sure, but I wasn't stressed there because I know this is just inducement of the lower liquidity. And so I was going to be targeting this more important liquidity, these relative equal lows, rather than be targeting the London sell side specifically. Even though, what do you have? You have an overnight Judah swing, which I failed to mention, actually. Thank you, Emil. You had a London raid framework. You had an overnight Judah swing. Maybe if we go to the 5-minute chart very quickly, you'll see it easier. Right here, what did we do? 2 to 5 a.m. We formed a high. We formed a low, raided the highs overnight, leaving the lows open, and this is all low resistance. So it is a beautiful London framework as well. That is all based on the one trading setup for life by ICT Logic. That is something I value dear, my intraday draws on liquidity. And if we look just for fun at your runner, you would have had a beautiful 6.4 R, and that is only to the start of the fair value gap, which as you can see later in the day got traded through all the way. Truth is, if you didn't enter early, you were probably a little confused and just trying to catch a falling knife, right? You had to be entered early. But as I stated, this entry wasn't the clearest, especially if you were holding a true mechanical approach. So I am going to showcase another entry that to me is valuable. I'm not going to share why it is still good because that is an upcoming video for the YouTube talking about the implied dealing range. But we are going to look at the fact that right here we formed a bearish unicorn. Truth is, though, I would not have waited all the way for this time. Why? Because I'm at this point, we already ran down. Right here, we still have our current low of day, and I couldn't anticipate an expansion through it. So if we look at the first bearish unicorn that was formed after our first possible entry, you'll find that this right here, this here breaker block was formed, which allowed you to take the trade right here. Once we traded back into the fair value gap, you could have taken a short right here. Now, where would you have taken profits? Well, let's first look at our stop, right? You have inversion, fair value gap here, order block, and fair value gap. Seems picture perfect, right? Seems like I picked it with hindsight. Well, it's 3 PD arrays. It's the 3 closest PD arrays. And as I said, right, there is a video coming on it with a lot more examples, but it is, to me, the most consistent trading logic for an invalidation level. Now, would I have taken profits at this level? Sure, 1-to-1. Would I have broken even? Very probably so, since it was so high resistance. But if you held it, yes, it allowed for continuation. Again, truth is, if you didn't enter at the start, to me, there is no valuable opportunity. That is not FOMO, because you're just late to the charts, late to, not necessarily to the charts, but you're late to your trade, so you just missed it. That happens. That is calculated within every model, or at least should be. That is what we call variance. You're not going to be able to catch every single setup your model gives you. So you need to have a profitable model to allow for you to make mistakes and miss trades, which in this case, it would have allowed it. You missed this trade, so what? You had other trade opportunities, had a great week last week as well, but it did offer this. I'm not going to speak about any long retracements. Why? Because I would not have considered them at all. Now, maybe I could have considered this here, but it is going into lunch. So to me, trading a lunch expansion is low probability. Why? Because lunch doesn't expand very often, meaning there's a low occurrence rate, right? The definition of low probability. So I will not consider any long into lunch, but out of this daily fair value gap, I could have considered long ideas, just it was early or later in the day, and from the point that we expand higher. And if we look right here, actually, let's go through a 15-minute chart. That expansion higher was a retracement into our premium array. Once we respect this premium array and continue expanding lower, that to me is just a sign that we are going to have a classic sell day. We are going to have a PM continuation. And as you can see, that's what happened until we retraced to a close in the last 30 minutes of the day. On that note, do we have any questions about the indicator or what happened today specifically? All clear as always. It's my pleasure, guys. As I said, I'll make a quick announcement about the indicator with the link, but you'll be able to find it in probably 5 minutes by searching key times and opening prices. So I hope you guys enjoy this small indicator. There are a lot more to come. I have a lot of indicators that I want to plan to alleviate the need to draw out so much. For example, I'm always drawing out these levels. And when you're trading, you don't want to spend your time drawing all the time. That is the power of indicators. It saves you time. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I wish you all a good trading day tomorrow, and hope to see you all again for tomorrow's price action review. Have a great night, guys.